Good morning. We're live from the birdhouse, and today we're giving a little birding update of the things that have been seen around town, and we're sharing your photos. As always, you can say hi in the comments, and if you have any questions, we are here to answer those as well. And we love to know what kind of things you're seeing, so you can put those in the comments as well. Curious if you guys have gone out birding. We're starting to get more of a spring feel. The weather is getting a little bit warmer now that it's daylight savings. We're having some longer daylight hours where you can go out and go birding too, and that can make a difference with your birding experience. And of course, the birds are singing, so we're supposed to have a couple nice days of some pretty warm weather coming up. And that should get the ball rolling with the birds starting to sing a little bit more too. So I know I've been hearing lots of cardinals especially singing, been seeing more robins out there. So there's some pretty fun bird activity going on. So first, I thought I would share this photo that was sent in by one of our customers. Cindy shared this. She said, I thought this was a pretty neat picture you might enjoy in case you hadn't already seen it. And this was a photo that's been going around the web by photographer Clint Ralph, who spotted a hawk walking like a soldier in search of food. So what a fun photo. Cindy shared that. So that's a fun photo that's been going around the web. And I hadn't seen that yet. So thanks for sharing that, Cindy. And then there's been lots of reports of bald eagles around. So a lot of you guys have been seeing bald eagles, both the adults and the juveniles. So the juveniles, they don't have their bright white heads and white tails for the first few years of their life. So they're going to be more of a dark brown color. And a lot of you have been seeing them, which is great. So Kim sent in these photos. She said, I thought you might like these pictures to share of two eagles I took down on the ice in Irondequoit Bay this morning. So looks like there's an adult here on the right and then a juvenile on the left. So some nice photos of some bald eagles there on Irondequoit Bay, which is a fantastic place to look for eagles. Any kind of large body of water, you can find the bald eagles at where they will hunt for fish. And Bob's been sending in photos of a Cooper's hawk he's been getting in his backyard. This is a great photo of the Cooper's hawk. And it can be hard sometimes to tell the difference between the Cooper's hawk and the sharp-shinned hawk, but the Cooper's hawk has that really nice rounded tail, and you can see that really well here in this photo that he sent in. So people still getting them in their backyards. They'll probably disperse a little bit more now that the snow is starting to melt here and they can find some other sources of food, not just birds at your bird feeder. And Mark was out by the water and got some great photos of some hooded merganser. So he says, I went to Kings Bend Park this past week in the cold and wind and saw 5 hooded mergansers, 12 ringneck ducks, coot, plus a great blue heron. So here are the hooded mergansers, really great photos of them. I love these birds. They're smaller than a mallard duck, and the males have that the really beautiful plumage there on their heads. So here's the male. And that is the male hooded merganser. And then here's the female. So she has that going too, just not as colorful. So that's going to be more of like a brownish, tannish color as far as her feathers go on her head. But really cool birds out there right now at Kings Bend Park. And I like this photo here because it shows the male. He's grabbing a fish right there. The fish looks almost as big as he is there. But that is the hooded merganser. And there's a little raft of them there. So really fun. And then here's the ringneck ducks. And here's a better photo of it right there. And they've got not only their name is ringneck duck, but they really have the ring around their bill there. And then there's a picture of the hooded merganser on the left and the coot. So the American coot is there as well. And so that's this bird here on the right. It's called the American coot. They've got a white bill. They're very duck-like in the water, but out of the water, they have really fun-looking feet, if you ever get to see one out of the water. And here's a mixed flock of some birds. So this is something you might see in your backyard. This is a really good photo of something we've been talking about, are these flocks of blackbirds. And here's a mixed flock of grackles and your red-winged blackbirds. So you can see the red-winged blackbirds on the left here. And then there's a whole bunch of grackles as well. So this is a pretty typical sight this time of the year, mixed flight of mixed flock of different blackbirds. And you might see them coming to your feeders too. They're migrating back into the area. So many of them are quite hungry. So they're going to be a common sight at feeders right now. And then here's a great photo of a red-winged blackbird, kind of showing its territorial display there. It's got its feathers all fanned out, and sometimes they'll puff up their wings so you can see those bright red patches on their wings. And a robin, I've been seeing lots of robins myself. It seems like they're starting to flow in a little bit more. And I'm curious if you guys are seeing more robins as well. We have some that will stay all winter long here, but a lot of them do go further south for the winter. So they start to flow in once we're getting close to spring. So here is your American robin. They're not going to really come to bird feeders, but they'll eat berries. If you have a tree that produces berries, that's a great place to go to look for the robins. And they'll come to bird baths as well. So a couple tips there for attracting birds. Some people do get them to eat their mealworms if you've got a mealworm feeder. If you are trying to get robins to go to some those, I would put them on a tray feeder, something that has a lot of perching room, because the robins really aren't your typical bird that will come to a bird feeder. And now here's a great photo. Speaking of bird activity, bluebirds, lots of people reporting bluebirds, and bluebirds starting to actively look for nest sites. So they're starting to take interest in birdhouses. If you're looking to attract bluebirds, putting out a bluebird box is really the best way to keep them coming with some kind of regularity. Not everybody can get bluebirds because they do like a wide open habitat. Where on Saturday's class, we're talking all about bluebirds and attracting bluebirds. So if you're interested in learning more about how to attract them, we'll be going over that. But if you just like want to test waters and see if you do have them, this product here called Bugs, Nuts, and Fruit has been super popular with everybody as far as getting bluebirds to come to their yard. And this photo was sent in by Ed, who looks like 6 bluebirds at once eating from his feeder here. He says apparently the word is out in the bluebird community that there's some good eating going on at our feeders. We've been lucky to have these guys showing up for months now, and they are always a delight to see. So what he's got there is our Bugs, Nuts, and Fruit log. We also have these in suet cake sizes. If you want to try it out, you can put them in a suet cage. And we do have it as a loose seed as well that you could put into a feeder. But the bluebirds here are going to be eating the mealworms mainly. We'll be getting in the live mealworms soon once we've got a little bit warmer temperatures where they can survive outside, but you can always do freeze-dried mealworms, and that's what they really like. They'll eat that. They'll eat fruit, and they'll also eat sunflower hearts here and there, and sometimes suet. We get people sending in photos of them eating the suet here and there too. So those are the bluebirds, and they're going to be looking for places to nest quite soon. They're one of our earliest nesting songbirds here. And this I thought was an interesting photo sent in by Mary Lynn. She says, had a northern flicker visiting my peanut feeder. So sometimes we'll see flickers. People have been getting them coming to their suet feeders. You rarely hear of them coming to a peanut feeder, which is pretty cool. And if you look closely at this photo, you can also see the woodpecker's tongue. You can see the little flicker's tongue is sticking out a bit. So really cool sighting here, sent in by Mary Lynn. I've never seen one of these guys on a peanut feeder. And this is, of course, the peanut wreath feeder, which is very, very popular here. People love it, especially for their blue jays. The blue jays love the peanuts in the shell. Every time I put mine out, I get a lot of red-bellied woodpeckers coming to it too. So you can get woodpeckers, you can get blue jays, you can get titmice, you can get chickadees. They all love this feeder here, this peanut wreath feeder. So speaking of flickers, here's another photo of a flicker sent in by Ed. He says, rare at our feeders. This flicker has been by only a few times this year, but he's always exciting to see. Love those yellow tail feathers. He spent almost 15 minutes working the suet from all sides. So here's another northern flicker, and you can absolutely see those yellow feathers. So underneath their feathers, they have almost a yellow wash to them. They're called yellow shafted flickers. If you're on the West Coast, you have red shafted flickers. And so when you see them fly, you see this really nice glimpse of yellow. So this is the northern flicker, and that is coming to a suet feeder there in Ed's yard. So over the winter, quite a few people were getting flickers who don't normally get them because we were getting lots of snow and their natural food was getting a little scarce, it seems. And all of a sudden, quite a few people were getting them coming to their feeders, which was great. And so here's some more photos of the ring-necked ducks here at Kings Bend Park. And you can see that there's some Canada geese there in the background. Some more photos sent in by Mark, and also bald eagles. So this was at Erie Canal Lock 32. He says 2 days in a row I've seen them flying around the area. So more bald eagle activity. We had those other photos that were sent in from Irondequoit Bay of some bald eagles, and here's some at Lock 32. So really neat sightings there of some eagles. And I love this photo sent in by Bob. It's getting to be about that time of the year where the goldfinches are starting to turn a little bit yellow. And you can see it here in this photo. He says this is probably the American goldfinch that is the brightest I have seen yet. So the goldfinches in the wintertime, they're going to be more that drab olive color, and they're molting their feathers to turn bright gold again for the spring. So that's always an exciting time of the year. So that's a great sighting sent in by Bob. And also a grackle. He says grackles can be kind of a bully. Are also another sure sign spring is on the way. I agree. So grackles are starting to come back to feeders. On Saturday, we talked about ways you can discourage them if you don't really want them to be at your feeders. So the best thing you can do as far as seed to put out to discourage the grackles is put out safflower seed. They really don't like that. And if you're looking for more tips on keeping the grackles away, you can check out our broadcast from Saturday. We went in depth about the grackles, and we even did a side of sparrows there, because a lot of the things that'll keep the grackles away will also help keep sparrows away too. And more blackbird activity. This is a red-winged blackbird sent in by Bob. He says, Mrs. Red-winged Blackbird showed up today with a few other females and males. Took this photo of the male yesterday before the snow. So here's the male red-winged blackbird, and now here's the female. So they look quite a bit different than the males do. It says 5 female red-winged blackbirds feeding on the ground this morning. The males were also around, but scattered around the trees. So the seems like people were reporting first the males coming in. Now the females are starting to get reported here as well. So here's a mix of 5 of the females there feeding underneath the feeders. This is again going to be a bird that likes a lot of perching room. They're kind of a larger size bird. So if you have something that the cardinals can fit on, red-winged blackbirds will be able to fit on there just fine. You might also see them on the ground cleaning up the little shells. So females look quite a bit different than the males. They're going to be about that same size as the male, but they almost look like an overgrown sparrow, and they've got kind of like a reddish tannish wash that goes over their face. So that is the female red-winged blackbirds. Really cool. I've only seen males myself so far. I haven't seen any females yet. And song sparrows. People are starting to see more song sparrow activity. This photo was just sent in by Mark, who saw a song sparrow at Lock 32. And Bob sent in this photo last week. My first song sparrow of the year showed up. So people are starting to see some song sparrows. Not your most typical backyard bird, but again, underneath your feeders this time of the year, you never know what you might see pop up. And this common redpoll was sent in last week as well by Luann. Last year, we had a really great year for redpolls. This year, not so much. Not that many were reported, but Luann had 3 in her yard. So they're going to be migrating too. They're going back up north where they are going to be breeding. And so you might just see some in your yard this time of the year as they're doing their seasonal movements there. But we haven't had a really strong year for the common redpolls. And I love this photo of the mockingbird. So this was sent in by Stacy. She's got a mockingbird coming to her feeder. Again, a bird that's not super common in the winter. We have many more of them here in the spring and summer. And Stacy was getting one coming to her feeder. So that's very, very fun. Another bird similar to the mockingbird that you might see coming to feeders if you put out your oriole feeder in the spring is going to be the catbird. So sometimes people get catbirds coming to their oriole feeders eating the jelly, but they're not really back yet. So they haven't arrived back to our area yet. And of course, beautiful cardinals. Not only are they coming to feeders, but they're singing their little hearts out. You might start to see them pair up. And in the winter, when they're not so territorial, they'll sometimes have large flocks or join mixed flocks of other birds. But right now, the cardinals are starting to pair up a little bit. They're starting to sing to attract a mate. So that's a really exciting time of the year. So here's a male and female cardinal here. And another bird that has a crest like the cardinal is going to be the tufted titmouse. You can get them coming to peanut feeders like that peanut wreath we saw earlier, or if you have a blend of seed that has peanuts in it that are shelled, that's ideal for the titmice. They love that kind of seed. They'll also, of course, eat black oil sunflower seed, just like the chickadees here. But chickadees also love the peanuts. So if you're trying to attract more of the chickadees and titmice and nuthatches, having some kind of seed mix that has peanuts in it is ideal. And people are still getting the dark-eyed juncos. They'll still be here for a little bit. Every once in a while, we hear of somebody who has them in the springtime and in the summer. But this is really going to be a winter bird for us, and they're still around. Again, underneath the feeders is where you're most likely to see them cleaning up shell, the little pieces of seed that have been dropped on the ground. So these are your dark-eyed junco, and they're a sparrow as well. So when we're talking about different sparrows in the area, they are actually in that family as well. They're in the sparrow family there. And this is a great photo of a couple of woodpeckers coming to a suet feeder center. Yvonne, she's got a couple downy woodpeckers there. And then the hawk. So Bob's been having some hawk action in his yard. Not only that Cooper's hawk we saw earlier, which was in its juvenile plumage, but then a sharp-shinned hawk here, which is in its adult plumage. So again, birds that are here all year round, but you're most likely to see them in your yard in the winter time. And time to start thinking about mason bees. I was looking at my house the other day, and they haven't emerged yet. They usually emerge early April. But if you're thinking about attracting them, now is the time to put out the house, so you're sure to capture them once they emerge. They'll lay their eggs inside these little tunnels, and they'll also put in there a little bit of nectar, a little bit of pollen for that for when the egg hatches, and then they'll cap it off with mud. And inside the house all summer long, there's some activity going in there where the eggs will hatch. That larva will eat that little nectar and pollen packet. They'll pupate, and they'll stay all winter in that pupa just to emerge again in the spring, where they will pollinate your garden. So it's always a very exciting time of the year when the mason bees come out. And they haven't emerged yet, but usually that first week of April or so, once temperatures hit 50 degrees and are consistently 50 degrees for a while, that's when we start to see these mason bees come out. So something to think about if you're trying to attract some native pollinators to your backyard. And here's just some zoomed in photos of the mason bees. And this is a video of, let's see if I can get it to play here, the video of some mason bees here. This is in my backyard from a couple of years ago. The mason bees starting to emerge. You can see the little head popping out there. They'll just chew their way out of the house and emerge. So those are your sightings. Thank you guys for sending in all of your photos. There are some really cool ones this week. So we are talking bluebirds on Saturday. So we're doing our live stream on bluebirds. We also have next week a couple of bluebird classes here at the store. So if you are interested in coming to the store and kind of getting a tutorial about how you can attract bluebirds and seeing some of the different products we have, we do have that going on next week. So we've got two different sections of classes. We've got one going on Tuesday, March 22nd here at the Birdhouse at 7 p.m. And then we have one Thursday morning, which is March 24th at 10 a.m. So we are asking people to sign up for that because class size is limited. So you can call us here at the store if you would like to participate in those workshops. And the phone number here is 585 264-1550. So if you have any questions or sightings, you can put those in the comments here, and we will get to those. Heavy Cream says, for the first time in my life, I have pileated woodpeckers coming to my yard. How can I keep them around? That's a very good question. So pileated woodpeckers will eat suet. That's going to be the most common thing that they'll eat that you can give them. They'll also, just like this picture here that the bluebirds are feeding from, they'll eat these seed logs. So that's the best way to attract them, is having a combination of their favorite foods. Anything with nuts in it is great as far as suet goes. So there's different flavors of suet you can get. So definitely want to get something that has nuts in it. There's some called Nutty Treat, Nutty Butter, things like that they love. And then also get what's called a paddle tail suet feeder. So we had a photo of one here in the broadcast I can show you. And what it does, it just gives them more support because they are such a large bird. They do need something that kind of helps support their tail. So if you have a feeder like this, that was like this photo sent in by Yvonne, that can really help. And there's a feeder that's even twice this size, that's even longer, that's designed just for pileated woodpeckers by a company called Bird's Choice. And you can see it on our website as well, which is thebirdhouseny.com. And it just is a nice long feeder. It gives them a space to prop their tail. So if you look at this little downy woodpecker here, it's using that projection on the paddle tail suet feeder to prop its tail up so they can feed, so that they can feed well, so they're not kind of flopping around on the feeder. Sometimes if you get just a little suet cage, it's hard for them to get their footing. So this paddle tail just allows them to be more stabilized, if you will. So I would definitely get a suet feeder that has some kind of projection on the bottom of it. That's going to be your best bet for keeping those pileated woodpeckers coming to your yard. They also say there are so many robins in my yard right now. So they're also getting a lot of robins coming to their feeders. Joyce says, first time here, looking for help to draw orioles, enjoying this. All right. So depending on where you live, it's probably still a little bit early for putting out oriole feeders. It's definitely early where we are in upstate New York here. But here we start getting orioles early May. So we always recommend putting out your feeders by then, because usually your best bet in attracting them is putting your feeders out very early in the season. So anything before the last week of April is pretty early. It's probably too early to put them out. People really start seeing orioles in our area around that first week of May. And then by mid-May, they're really, really flowing in. The best thing you can do to put out to get orioles is grape jelly. That is their absolute favorite thing. We carry something called birdberry jelly. It's a mix of grape and blackberry, and they absolutely love that. They'll also eat oranges. So you can cut an orange in half and put those orange halves out, and they'll drink nectar too, like a hummingbird. That seems to be, out of all the different things they eat, that seems to be their kind of least favorite. But they will feed on a combination of all those things. But if you can only put out one, grape jelly is absolutely the way to go. So hopefully that helps. And we'll be having some classes about how to attract orioles to your yard as well once we get closer to that season, about a month from now. Randy says, good morning. Good morning, Randy. Let's see. And Heavy Cream says, oh my goodness, I didn't know we have such beautiful birds. Yes, there's so many different kinds of birds out there. Once you start really paying attention, it's amazing how many bird species there are out there. Here in Rochester, where we're broadcasting from, we can have over, I think it's like 238, something like that, different species in the month of May. So that's always a really exciting time. And there's all kinds of different birds coming in, different migrants, and that's always a very exciting time. So if you're interested in seeing some real bird diversity, that's when we really start seeing a lot. Bob says, good morning. I've seen a couple of interesting things. One was my first turkey vulture of the year. Also saw what I believe were snow geese flying overhead, just a small group of 3. Probably, yes. So the snow goose migration has been going on around Mendon, or not around Mendon Ponds, around Montezuma. Lots of people have been reporting snow geese, so I would not be surprised if you saw some flying overhead. And yes, turkey vultures are flying back into the area. So if you see something that looks like a large bird of prey, but it's not really flapping its wings, it's more just soaring, it's probably a turkey vulture. So they are starting to come back into the area. Randy says, yes, robins and cardinals are visible here. So Randy's also seeing robins and cardinals. Angelique says, morning, spent about 30 minutes after work Sunday watching northern harriers hovering and hunting at Burger Park. Pics coming eventually. So Angie's been seeing some northern harrier activity at Burger Park, which I hear is a great place to go birding. So that's, if you're in the Rochester area, a place people have been getting some pretty good bird diversity there. Sarah says, I was Googling Bluebirds and found your channel. Awesome. So thank you, Sarah. Good morning to you as well. So speaking of bluebirds, we're going to be talking more about bluebirds on Saturday. We'll be doing our live stream all about attracting bluebirds to your backyard. If you have bluebird houses out, make sure you have cleaned them out from last year. We've got some nice warm weather coming on its way, so I wouldn't be surprised if the bluebirds really start checking out different places to start nesting this week. And so you want to make sure that those nesting cavities are nice and clean for them and nice and clear. So that's a little project to do this week when the weather is nice. And you want to make sure you do that for all your bird houses, not just your bluebird houses. Now is a fantastic time to do that. So it looks like that's everybody's comments and questions for today. We'll be back on Saturday where we're talking bluebirds. And until then, enjoy your week and have a great day. Bye-bye.